Good morning and welcome to Book Club Corner, where every Wednesday, right here on Tobago Updates, we chat with stakeholders of the publishing industry, artists who write and illustrate, as well as, of course, our amazing authors. And we have with us today something special for you. We have a bookstore retailer, and we have Natalie Sealy-Richardson, and she is the senior manager at Books and Office Supplies right here in TLH Mall in Tobago. She is also a human resource professional and educator and former English teacher. And I think once you're an educator, always an educator, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
It's in your blood now.
Yes.
I love that. So Natalie, welcome to Book Club Corner.
Thank you, Jewel. Thank you for having me.
This is the first time we've had you here.
Yes, yes.
And as a bookstore retailer, I think you have so much to share with the viewing public. And that's one of the things I love about Book Club Corner, where we're able to not just talk to authors who are publishing, but to persons who are in the publishing industry in every nook and cranny, organizing, selling, getting the books out, and you're one of those persons. I love your bookstore. And this is, again, Books and Office Supplies. If you're in Tobago, you know where that is in TLH Mall, that big red building, right, opposite the Esplanade. And you know where to go for your books, office supplies, and stationery. And if you're not familiar with Tobago, again, it's in Scarborough, opposite the Esplanade. I think you would be familiar with Island Finance, right? We're not advertising for them. We're just using them as a landmark. But that once you see that red building and Island Finance written, you know you're turning into the right place. And you can ask anybody because it's a popular bookstore in Tobago. And you get all your local books, textbooks, and everything. Natalie, tell us a bit about your journey, about how you became the manager of this bookstore, and how did you get into retailing books?
Right. Let me first say thank you for having me, Jewel. It's always interesting when I look at the show and you hear the journey of these authors. And I feel so proud that, Trinidad and Tobago, and specifically Tobago, has so much talent.
Oh, yes.
So to answer the question, Books and Office Supplies is a family business. So I would not have been there from the genesis of it, but somewhere along the line, I thought I could add value and contribute. Sometimes we grow up and we think we have to work for someone else. But when you work for yourself, I think there's a special satisfaction and there's so much more you can do, And so I decided, okay, let me go into the business, throw my hand in, see how I can contribute. And that's how I'm there at Books and Office Supplies. I would say more full-time now, because I tell people when you're working for yourself, it has nothing like part-time, full-time. You're just there,
Correct.
Yes.
You're either in it or you're out.
Yeah.
Your parents say you're inside or you're outside. That is the life of an entrepreneur, right?
True, quite
Once
true.
you have your own business, you're in it to win it, and you have to pay those bills, and I love that. It gives you a special satisfaction. I love that word you use in terms of getting your business not just ready for the public, but really getting your business up to a certain standard, where you feel proud that this is not just a local, what we call mom and pop shop sometimes, but this is something that would meet international standards anyway, and I think when I get into your bookstore, well, I'm a diary girl, so when I get into your bookstore, Natalie,
Yes.
the first place I'm heading, right there on the left, where you all have all the diaries,
Yes.
right, and I'm looking to see how big I could get it, right, and I got a large one from you all one year, and it was right before COVID sent us home, and I had nothing to put in it.
Dear. Oh,
But
dear.
I love a good diary,
Yeah.
and Books and Office Supplies is perfect. In terms of you adding value to Tobago, to the Tobago space, tell us about your experience in terms of lending that value for the Tobago space. Because what we're seeing is that, what I'm hearing is a lot of persons saying, oh, people don't read anymore.
Yes.
They don't read anymore. I take umbrage to that statement, I'm telling you right now. However, I understand why a person may feel that way, but is this something that you all are experiencing, perhaps in terms of the sale of the book, traffic coming through the store? Take us through that from pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID in terms of what's happening with the Tobago readers.
Right, and that's a very good question in that it's really a transition and a movement. Because in the business, I would be one who would also say that we aren't reading. At least we are not reading, the amount of books and exposing ourselves and our children to books. And I say that because it's not just about sales. I mean, it's going to be evident from the sales, and I can say we would have had to change our ordering approach, because there was one time we had so many novels, fiction novels, bestsellers, and people will come, and at one point we literally had to move them out the store. It just was not going, and we had to redirect resources elsewhere, because you're spending money bringing inventory that is just not moving. And then you had the genesis of the Kindle. So people said, oh, bookstores will die, the Barnes and Nobles, but bookstores are around to stay. People reading it's an experience. When you hold a book, so yes, you have the electronic devices, you could use your phone, there are ebooks, but there is nothing to take that can substitute that experience with you sitting with a book physically, paper, turning pages, using bookmarks, highlighting with your marker. It's quite an intimate experience. So though the technology is there and a lot of us were fearful, well, this is the end of us, we saw that turnaround. The excitement didn't last long. People began complaining, staring at the screen for extended period, who's getting headaches. And then we have customers who would tell us, it just didn't feel right. Sometimes I would do it and they would say, yes, I have an ebook here, but it just didn't feel right. And you find they went back to that traditional way. So we would have seen that move. But what I can say now within recent time, in Tobago, we have a group of young professionals who are now parents, and you find they are encouraging their children to read. So they would stop by, and I have a 9-year-old, I have a preteen. I heard him ask about this book, The Wimpy Kid, and the international titles that kids follow. And it's often, for me, that is exciting. Like, the best part of the business for me is meeting parents who want their children to be readers.
Yes.
Adults may come in, yeah, I will entertain you, but for me the passion is when I meet the mommy and the daddy, the granny, auntie, somebody who wants a book for a child.
Yes.
And that they can feel comfortable knowing we have a wide selection and they don't have to go away empty-handed. So you see that transition to that young professional who is a parent now, who is trying to expose their child to reading and new experiences. And for us, adding value, it's not just the economic side, because we have employees, so you pay salaries, you provide an avenue for people to also develop, but really it's the love for our people and wanting them to have that experience reading. And we know reading increases your vocabulary, it helps you with your writing, you are able to travel the world and not leave your home. And when you see children who are readers, they usually have the edge in the class. They're able to articulate themselves, express themselves. They tend to be more all-rounded and a better student overall. So for us, it's about bringing that type of value to Tobago and just letting people know it's also a way to relax.
Yes.
You have that side of it as well.
I like that you brought up that part of it, the leisure side of reading.
Yes.
Right? Because let me tell you, reading is a leisurely sport.
Yeah.
Right? You get to chill somewhere.
Yeah,
read a
definitely.
good book. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of persons don't particularly get into, right? We tend to read for school, we read for education.
Because it's mandatory. So
Exactly.
you have that, because even sometimes when secondary school students come in and I'll be like, you all know this author, you ever read this book? And they'll be like, Miss, I no time to read, you know. I read in my textbooks and you see that drill down. And I'm like, yes, but you have to make time to read outside of that. I say, if you plan to be a professional, you can't just read on your subject matter as well. You know, you have to do a little more than that. And, you know, you'll have these interesting conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, because you would get book lists coming to you.
Yes.
Do they still do this on the bottom of the book list, recommended reading? Do they still do that?
You don't see that anymore. It's just your textbooks. You may have a school or two that may put it as an optional textbook. So if the parent can, you may see optional, but you seldom see that anymore. Really? Yeah. So this is your textbook for math. This is your textbook for language. This is your Spanish textbook, and you focus on that.
Okay, because when I was at school, we would always have, especially if it's English, literature,
right,
geography, whatever subject, they'd always try to direct you to extra books
right,
that could help you understand the material. Because remember, not all textbooks hit all readers the same way and all learners the same way. So I really think, you know, you all need to go back to that recommended reading section at the bottom. So does that mean that the teachers aren't reading?
Well, that's an entirely different conversation, entirely. And I think when we look at the school system and the textbooks, even because it's a business, and I'll be quite, you know, frank about it, so that how this works, because sometimes a parent will come, this is not the book they used last year, and when I got it from somebody and now they changed the book. Publishers come directly to schools and they target teachers. So that publisher A will go around to the schools in Tobago and give incentives as well as to why you should switch out to my book. Because once that change is made, it means this publisher will now get his or her books sold. Right. So it really is a business. And I would caution, you know, teachers to be mindful of the books you are selecting for your students. All books are not created equal. Yes, they follow the same syllabus, but all books are not created equal.
Yes.
You know?
You know, it's interesting that you're saying that, because books may follow the syllabus, as you said, but the techniques in terms of treating the subject to make sure that the learning process is easy for the student. Because some people even go as far to figure out, well, what type of learner am I targeting versus just putting out material to say, well, I've put out a textbook and it's a math textbook, right?
Yes.
And that's important too. We need to know who is the learner we're targeting and what this learner needs to be able to learn easily. And, you know, kudos to the schools who feel like we don't have to change your textbook every year. Because I went to a high school, and to be honest, at the end of every year, we would have a book sale in the school. Right. So, you know, school would close on Friday. You get to come back Monday and sell all your books. Right. Let me tell you, people don't want to dog-ears the book. They don't want to write up. Because they want to sell it, and you want to get the most for your books, right? Definitely. And that way, I think it really saved a lot of parents, and I know it saved us a lot of money, because we would go to the hall, everybody would set up in a corner with a table and have the little books and the prices and stuff, sell their books, and then they'd take the money and turn right around and buy the books for next year one time. Yes. So I think, you know, schools can look at having their own internal book sales, because at the end of the day, you do want to make sure the students don't have to buy a new edition because they change one word.
And then you, like the Ministry of Education last year would have mandated schools not to change their book list from the prior year.
Very good.
Because again, it's a business on one end, and if the teachers or the school is wooed a particular way, the change is made. Now, some changes are warranted because you may discover a textbook that you prefer, whether it's more colorful. For example, for primary school, like let's say creative writing. There are numerous textbooks on creative writing for primary school level, and some are just printed black and white. Then you have some with color. Like for children, I would always recommend the ones with color. It's more user-friendly, it's exciting. You have some, the layout of the book may be a bit cumbersome, as opposed to another one where you open it, the lines for the child to write is adequately spaced, as opposed to from very thin lines. And I'm like, if it's a workbook, who is going to write on those lines? So you can get very picky about it, you know.
Yeah.
But these are the things I observe. So if a parent who is just shopping for that additional book outside of the text, you know, you find my personal recommendations will be, I would prefer this and I would explain why, but I would always give the customer that choice. So I'm not going to give you all because it can become overwhelming. So I'll say, okay, these are 3. They are all different in their own little way. Sometimes they may make a selection or sometimes they may say, can you guide me? But at the end of it, I'll say, but you have to make the choice. You know your child, you know what you want to accomplish. It covers the same topics.
Yeah.
But I like this because it has color.
Yes.
You know, that kind of way. So yeah, it's quite interesting in terms of textbooks and that part of it. And you know, back to school can be quite stressful. I'm sure the other bookstore owners can attest to it. And if I can just again put a plug to teachers, because teachers are like gods. So with the advent of the technology and the WhatsApp groups, teachers are now taking snapshots of the covers of the books on their desk. And parents are coming with their phones. Oh, this is the book that I need. When we see the book, we know that book cover is from 5-6 years ago, and that is not how the book looks. So when we pull the new edition, the parent says, that's not the book Miss said to get. And a whole big thing happens at the store.
I know.
You know? So I am appealing to you teachers who may have all the desk copies of books on your desk. You know, you can send the book because the name more or less will be the same. But advise your parents that the cover may look a bit different, but once you have the name and the author matching, you know, this is the book. Again, we don't argue with them, so we will explain, well, Miss has this version, but this is where it is. But you can always verify with me. So take a picture and tell Miss, this is the book you're getting, you know?
Yes.
It's quite interesting.
It is. I remember as a student, you know, Miss would have a few, like a photocopy or 2 of a workbook section.
Right.
And because the new editions have different pages, different words, you know, they want you to stick to the version they have because they already photocopy all these copies for next year. Like you're disrupting their whole flow, right? Go and get the old book. You know, you have to go back and look back in the years to say, anybody have this old edition of the book because Miss is using it because she already has, you know, everything set up for this book. So we quite understand. Listen, we're going on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Natalie Sealy-Richardson, the co-owner manager of Books and Office Supplies right here in Tobago. And we're going to be talking to her about living that dream, being a bookstore owner, and how the authors can better position themselves to be able to get into her bookstore. We'll be right back.
When the game is on, you don't want to miss the best moments. With AMPLIA TV, you can enjoy our ultimate sports package and watch your favorite games on the go. Stay connected and informed with sports news, scores, and stats with AMPLIA's fastest internet speeds. Up to 1 GB fiber internet. You can stream riveting football action, cricket, NBA games, and much more. With AMPLIA, it's game on. Visit amplia.co.tt or call 800-4663. AMPLIA. Do more, live more.
Courts is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Courts Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Courts Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
And welcome back to Book Club Corner, where every Wednesday we chat with a publishing industry stakeholder, book owners, booksellers, authors. Listen, we talk to a wide variety of persons in the publishing industry, and today we have with us Miss Natalie Sealy-Richardson. Welcome back, Natalie.
Thank you again.
You know, we were having such a good conversation, getting carried away.
Yes, yes.
With ins and outs of textbooks and schools and all of that. But, you know, for me, when I think about bookstores, I always picture, you know, this very, how to put it, the aesthetic of the bookstore.
Yes, yes.
You get to come and sit in a corner and read quiet, kind of like a library slash
Yes, and that's my
right?
dream.
And
I know the vision, I know where you're going,
Yes.
and yes.
free internet.
Yes.
You get your coffee or your
Yes,
tea and
yes.
you buy the book, right? And you sit in a corner of the bookstore and you read and you chill out. Listen, you take out your laptop or your device, and you yourself may be an author and you want to get some work in. So I really love that idea. What do you think about that type of bookstore? Because you're saying this is your dream as well. Do you think that type of bookstore has a place in Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago? Are people going to be coming out to chill and lime for the whole day to read, to write, you know, this kind of bibliophilic life that we're talking about? Is this something that Trinidad and Tobago is looking forward to?
I would say most definitely, and if we focus on our space here in Tobago, it may take a while because, you know, sometimes things that are quite new may take a while to catch on. But I think if you provide the opportunity for persons, you do your marketing, I see it as something that is, you know, can work. Because currently, I think so many people are looking for something different to do as well. Yes, we have so many activities on the island, but they tend to be of a certain nature. And there are other people who may not want that type of socialization, may just want some more downtime, quiet time. And, you know, providing a space like that where they can feel comfortable, and it may just encourage them to make the time to read, you know. And as I say, you know, that's my dream. I would always be saying, oh, if we could get more space, or, you know, can we have the capital to like rent out a whole top floor of somewhere, and just create this utopia of books. You know, that is really, because I love books. I grew up reading a lot. I always remember my mother, if she would go run errands, it's 3 of us. I have 2 sisters, so it's 3 girls. And anytime she came back home, she would bring a book. So the Nancy Drews, the Hardy Boys, you know, the Enid Blytons. And the thing is, we would read, and we read without taking a break. So by the next day, we're like, Mommy, we finished. And she'll be like, what? She said, this is costing me too much. Because if you all are reading books that rapidly and expect me. So that was the first trip or journey to, okay, you'll need to join the library. Right? So she did join us, the library. And it was such an outing for us to, you know, go and get our book renewed, and you take it back. And sometimes when you can't find the book, you're like, oh my gosh, we'll have to pay dues, you know, some sense. But you don't want that to happen. And you're asking, your sister, you have my book? And because it was 3 of us, the one just after me, who'd be obviously closer in age to me, we would exchange books as well. And well, the last sibling, she would, you know, have her own. We would read her until she got to that time. But really, for me, I don't know anything else. I'm a bit guilty of not reading as much as I should now, because again, and I would say I don't make the time for it. People say we don't have time, but we have to make the time.
Yeah, that's
but books, it's, how could you not?
I love it. How could you not? Books, how can you not? I'm putting that on a t-shirt, Natalie. I'm stealing it, putting it on a t-shirt. I love the reference and that memory of going to the library.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that sparks the love of books for a child. Because for me, you know, we had a library home. We had volumes of books. But I've always felt that, you know, that's mommy and them books.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because I'm one of those persons, if I find a book I like, I'm not putting it back on the shelf, right?
It becomes yours, yes.
And she'd be like, a book is missing. I'd be like, That's my book, mommy.
New owner.
Yeah, she'd be like, a book is missing. I'm looking for this book, and there's a spot here.
Right.
And I'd be like, I want my books. And when she signed us up for the library, that's when I felt like I could, like, this is mine.
Right.
She's not asking back for it. She's asking where it is. The only thing we have to carry back to the library to, get new books. But I think that helps spark a love of reading because books are expensive.
Yeah.
And when I say expensive, not in the sense that this one book is so prohibitively expensive, but you finish your book and then what, right? You need another one and another one. And therefore, that's where the expense comes in, So I think libraries serve quite a great purpose in terms of making sure that we each have that ability to, get as many books as we want, read as many books as we want, and different topics too, because sometimes you don't even know what genre you like.
Yes.
Until you get into the different ones, you're like, I did not like that one. I love that one.
Yeah.
So I think libraries help us to get there, and then the bookstores now bring the new books in, because sometimes you go to the library and they don't have the latest books.
Yes, yeah, quite
true. You go there and you're like, what about so-and-so? And they're like, we haven't gotten that yet. And you're like, I know which bookstore.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. So tell us about that experience for you in terms of now being a bookseller, book retailer of your own, and that juxtaposition between being a library user. How do we balance that as a retailer? Because it's a business, right? You want to sell the books, but you also want, people to read rapidly and read frequently. How do we balance those two things between being the publisher industry, I should say, because it's not just booksellers, it's book publishers as well, and the library where you get free books.
Right.
How do we balance that?
Well, I think they both need each other. I don't see the two as competitors or competing with each other, because they have a fundamental difference in that they both want the end user to read, but the access to it. So people like to own things. I want my own. So yes, you have the library where we can renew your books, your subscription, pick something. But as you rightfully said, you may want to read more trending books, books that are more current or up to date. You're following a particular author, a particular series, and you may not get that in the library. So you may now say, let me go to a bookstore. And then you have the other angle of it where I want my own. Even with busy parents, sometimes it's just easier to go to the bookstore, pick up the 2-3 books for the kids, as opposed to, okay, I have a time to return the book. Sometimes it's just not convenient, etc. So I think, they both work hand in hand in terms of exposing us to reading. But I see, the end user, the type of end user, it's a bit different. So it's not that they're competing. Sometimes, as someone in the business looking at it, you can tend to look at the library as a competitor, or, but we really don't. It doesn't make a big impact to say, well, your readers, you're not getting the foot traffic and that kind of thing. What I do want to, you mentioned earlier about the love for reading, but really we have to encourage it from in the womb. So our women who are pregnant, you read to that child. That is so important for that development of that fetus and that child you are preparing
I
for.
have to put a plug, daddies, y'all can also read.
Yes, of course.
I'm looking at y'all. You can read to the bellies. This is not mommy's responsibility alone.
Yeah.
Okay, daddy?
Yeah.
So you get that book out. And you can also read.
And the research shows, that the bonding it creates, because the relationship begins to form. That living being, right? Yes, that living being is making an attachment and is able to recognize that voice as well. So, and we have so many different personalities. I remember this young pregnant mother coming into the store, and I tend to call pregnant women mothers, right? I don't wait until after they give birth.
I like it.
So this young pregnant mother came in and she asked, do you have books that I can read for my baby? And you can tell she really was clueless. And I said, of course. And I proceeded. I said, come on, let me show you some. And her friend, she had a friend with her who said, you're wasting your money, girl. We're going to buy books. It's not like the baby know anything. And I usually will stay out of people's business. But I looked at that mother and I said, you are on the right track. I say, that's your friend? I say, that's not good advice. I say, and you be careful of the advice you follow, especially when this child is born, you know? And you could see she wanted to do good, you know? And I'm saying, you know, we don't understand the impact we have on others, because that just rolled off the friend's mouth like, you know, and if she wasn't a mother, I'm sure she would be a mother by now, you know, and you telling someone who wants to do something positive, such as encourage reading, and you find that. So you have the homes where a book is a luxury, like it's literally a luxury item. I just have money to buy the textbooks. In fact, I barely have the money to buy the textbooks. So to come and buy a Enid Blyton and Nancy Drew, a wimpy kid, you know, and at our bookstore, you can get books from...
The loveliest, Selborne James.
Right?
Listen.
Yeah, and the thing is, at our bookstore, you have a wide... Yes, and you have a wide range in terms of price points. So you can get the book for $100, you can get a book for $15, so you can, you know, you can shop around and find something. But you have some of us who we were not exposed to books as children. We never really had an opportunity to understand the importance of it. And we grow our children, you know, like that. But for us, the love, you know, when we have all our staff meetings and we talk about where we want the business to go and that kind of thing, even just with our staff, like we tell them, it's not just a book you're selling. Right? Anybody can go anywhere and get a book, but you have to encourage that love. You know, why are you buying this book? You know, is it for your daughter, your son? Or when you have time, come back, because you might like this, or he might like this. You know, so it's not just you coming in. Often we would ask, what does your child like? So if it's a boy, he likes animals, trucks or whatever. So we try to find books on those subject matters, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. Because I would often ask a parent does your child already love reading? Most times you would hear, no, you know, but I wonder. I say, well, we can't buy the heavy books with a set of words. So let's start them off here. What they like to do. They like food, they like mystery. So you try to find a subject matter that it's just like even if in school, there are teachers you don't like, not because they're bad, you just don't like the subject. You know, so if you give me, I don't like to read already, and you give me a book with things that I'm not going to hold my interest, then, I don't want to see any book. You know, that kind of way. So we have to be careful.
That. In terms of the subject matter that the child is interested in, and then pull them into reading. I want to stay on this point for a little bit in terms of reading to your child from the womb, mummies and daddies. And I'm just going to say this because I know a lot of times some parents think, you know, they're not hearing me. They don't know what's going on. That's not true. Sometimes these babies come out and they hear daddy's voice far off, and they're breaking the neck.
Because it's a familiar sound.
Like, who's that? I know that person. They hear mommy's voice, they're breaking the neck. Your baby knows you. You know what I mean? And I'm encouraging parents to start that reading early. You may not be a reader yourself, but you and your child can start that love of reading. This is how sometimes parents get introduced to reading as well. And I'm just putting it out there as well. If you're not literate, right? Just putting it out there. There are many programs happening all over Trinidad and Tobago so that you can become literate and enjoy the love of reading with your child. So it doesn't have to be something that, you know, you can't do with them. They have to do it on their own. There is the Tobago Institute of Literacy. There's ALTA in Trinidad, and there are a lot of other you know, little literacy programs happening. Please, parents, when we talk about books, we have to address literacy. And if you're not literate, we are encouraging you. It's a beautiful thing. I know you may feel embarrassed because you're an adult and you may not be able to read, but that's nobody's business but yours. I'm looking at you. That's nobody's business but yours. Go and get the help you need so that you can become literate and expand your life, not just for you, but for the children in your life and your family. All people like to be read to.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Tell me, what, and this is going to be quick because we go into a break and then we're going to come back with a very important question. But what is it looking like when we talk about the elderly and reading? Do you have elderly customers coming in? And when we say elderly, you know, we're not talking about those who still working age, but they coming down
Right,
to it.
yeah.
We're talking about the elderly ones who, you know, pensioners, retirees, they're home chilling. How is that looking in terms of the foot traffic coming into the store?
Right. The foot traffic is quite slow in that age group. And the ones who are coming in, you find that they come from a professional background. So it's a retired teacher or principal, somebody who might have been in the medical field, you know, somebody who may have been an elder or in the clergy of their church, that kind of thing. I know we have a particular gentleman. I would have formed a relationship with him. I'm not sure of his background, but I know he's a reader. But he's very specific in his genre. So the books that he reads are not the books we will bring for our customers. But we order it for him. So that's another service we do. Sometimes people have a very specific book they need. And remember, you can't cater for everyone in the market. So we also do that. You may have a book you need. It may not be for a class, but just this is a book you want. And we would order it on your behalf. So we would have formed a relationship with him. It's so funny when he comes in the store because we would pull a seat for him, you know, let him catch himself. And he would take out his paper and he will say, who is taking this for me? This is my list. And he's very businesslike. So he will tell you, you know, I don't have plenty money, but give me an idea of what it will cost. And he will insist he will not leave the store unless he gives you some money. And I would say, no, sir, I haven't given you the cost yet. So he said, no, I have to budget this thing. So let me leave this. So if I have to give you less when it comes, that's fine. And, you know, sometimes I take a little long to communicate with him and he would stop by and I'll say, don't come into Scarborough. I say, once you didn't hear from me, it's not here yet, but I'll update you. And I really applaud him, you know, because he does. I don't know who helps him with his research, because oftentimes I will call him to verify. He say, well, you know, I don't know about this, but I'll let the person check it out for me. And he, you know, every couple of months you see him and he comes with his list of 2-3 books that he wants to read. And I really admire him for that, because it takes from him, because he uses public transport, whether he's coming from to come to the store, walk up the stairs, you know. I have some customers who would sometimes call us and say, I'm downstairs, but I just need 1 or 2 things, and they don't want to come up the stairs. And I'm like, are you serious?
Yes.
I said, no, you come up the stairs, you need the exercise. You know, for those of you who know where we are on the first floor, we're not on the ground floor. And I said, no, we're getting too lazy. Take the walk up the stairs and come get your stuff. You have to choose, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you would ask that, but we don't have a heavy foot traffic in that demographics. Yeah.
Do you find that books are targeting them? You know, we know books for different age groups have different things, they have requirements and you know, certain things they have to meet. So for instance, you know, for small children, the print must be big, a lot of photos. But are we targeting older persons to encourage them to read in terms of the font size, the content? I mean, are we encouraging older persons to read, or expecting them now with, you know, weak eyes and persons like myself using glasses?
And like myself.
Are we encouraging them to be able to
And I never thought of it like that, because we have the customers too who would come and they may buy a book, or even if it's a product and they need to read the label, and they'll say, do you have a magnifying glass? Or they would purchase one, right? So I think I never really thought of it like that, because you do have the large print for the children. And let's look at Bibles. So Bibles, the publishers do large print. So that is one sector that realizes that we have an aging reading customer base, and we have to provide for them. So you have your customers who will come in, you know, I need a Bible, but it must be a large print. You can get that. But really and truly, when you look at publishers who are producing mass books by the thousands, even millions, I mean, that may be an extra cost now to say, okay, let's print a couple hundreds in a larger print. How is that going to change the format of the book with my 200-page book now turn into a 600-page book, you know? So I think maybe all those may have been considered, but quite interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed it because one, you know, having a mother, she has passed now, but having an aged mother
Right.
who was looking to read, she never got to the point where she needed the magnifying glasses, but, you know, surely, listen, she loved those big prints, right? Your medication bottles, they don't
Yes.
even consider these. I
Yes,
mean,
quite
why is the
true.
medication bottle, the instructions so
Yes,
fine?
yes.
How they gonna see? And then I was
Yeah.
like, well, how they gonna read the book if they can't even see the
Yeah.
medication? They need somebody to
Yeah,
come and say,
yes.
listen, what is on here and how do
Yeah.
I have to
Quite
take it?
interesting.
So I think that's something that not just book publishers, but authors have to look at when they're doing their self-publishing
Right.
in terms of the market they're trying to attract. Because some books are targeting older persons, you know. They're looking at memoirs, they're looking at stories that are talking about this is how my life went. And I find that persons of a certain age appreciate those kinds of stories
Right.
much more
Yes.
than a younger person saying, well, you know, my life now start.
Yes.
Why looking to talk about, you know,
Yep.
this is what happened in my life.
Quite true.
My life now start. Well, why? What do I have to do with a memoir? That's, you know, you're heading to the grave. But I don't want that. So I think that's something we need to think about.
Right.
And of course, publishers and authors targeting that market. I think we would get a lot more readers from that age group. And I'm putting it out there for the retired, Trinidad and Tobago retired persons, right? There's an association. Please consider looking to make sure that your members are able to get books that they would love, books that they can see, right? And there are a number of aids too that come with that age. So that magnifying glass, I saw they're selling this one that can attach to, remember the Home Shopping Network we used to get on cable?
Yes, yes.
They used to have this magnifying glass you could attach to your book with a light.
Yes.
Right?
And you just
Yes,
sliding.
you just slide it down as
Yes.
you're going along, so you could read even the small print books, you know. So I think perhaps even the gadgets to
Right.
help older persons read might be a good investment.
True.
Not just for a bookstore,
Yeah.
but, you know, for a person who likes to read.
Yes,
You
quite
know?
true.
We're going on a quick break. I'm having such a good time. We're going on a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be addressing authors. How do you get into bookstores, and what's the key to get into books and office supplies? When we come back, we're going to be talking to Natalie Sealy-Richardson about how an author can get their book into her store.
TNTech is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday, 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
And welcome back to Book Club Corner, where we're chatting here with the fantastic, the amazing book retailer, Natalie Sealy-Richardson of Books and Office Supplies in beautiful Scarborough, Tobago. So don't say you don't know where to get books in Tobago, right? We are giving you the tea, the 411 on how and where and who has the books right here in Scarborough, Tobago. Natalie, it's been such an interesting conversation, but we want to make sure the authors know how to
Yes.
get into a bookstore, because
Right.
that's one of the things authors always ask. You know, I have my books, but the bookstores don't want them.
Right.
They told me no. I don't know who to approach. What do I say?
Right.
Tell us, Natalie, if an author is to approach you, whether they're online, whether they're sending a WhatsApp message, emailing, or they're coming in person, what are some of the things you as the book retailer want to hear about their books before you say, oh, fantastic, bring it?
Right. So I would usually want to know, of course, the subject matter and who the target audience is. Some of the books I necessarily don't have to see it in person, but if you have something like a coloring book, like I need to see that because I want to see the quality of the pages and the print, you know. You have so many options when you think about printing, whether you have the newspaper type of paper, whether it's a smooth finish, because I'm thinking of my customers as well. And customers can be very picky. I love them, but they can be very, very picky, you know, so that, and again, because we try to offer a wide price point to customers, you find that the quality or options available also vary. So, for example, a coloring book can be as low as $12, and you can get a coloring book for $40-something. Of course, the $40-something coloring book, the cover is more firm, it's brightly colored, it's going to be thick, you know, in terms of the number of page options to color, as opposed to something that's $12. The cover easy to tear. It's a kind of very soft paper inside. Sometimes the lines on the outline of your of that drawing to color may not be very well defined, right? But if you have $12, you can get the coloring book for your child. They're going to color regardless, you know, so some books I would want to see it before. But generally, like we have this policy at Books and Office Supplies where we support local. So as soon as you walk through our main door, there's a shelf that faces you, local books. We give, and I don't want to use first preference, but we encourage authors, Tobago authors. That's your shelf. So the only way we turn you back is if you don't understand what a consignment agreement is, and you want to give me $5 off of what you're selling your book, because you have to be reasonable, right? So the book industry usually operates with local authors on a consignment agreement. That is, I pay you as your books sell. So it's not cash upfront. So I would often advise the person, come with your consignment agreement. Understand what price are you giving me it for? What is your selling price, your retail price? Because sometimes book authors, especially if it's their first time, they would call all excited, and I understand the excitement. But then when I ask, okay, what are you selling your book for? You don't have it. Then you're not ready for the bookstore as yet. So when you approach, you need to you should have done your market research, understand the cost of your book and what you are now going to sell your customer, and understand if you're approaching me, the bookstore gets a percentage. We're not asking, and don't come and tell me, oh, I want $5, you sell it for whatever. Because then you can literally price yourself out of the book industry. So you know the value of your book. What do you want your book sell? Even if you give the booksellers a range, okay? My book, you can sell it it's selling between $10 and $15, right? But don't leave it up to the bookstore owner to set a price, because you may come by me and you get your $5 and I price it for $7 and somebody else priced it for $25. Right? So understand you need to set that price point, have your consignment agreement. For us, you can type it up yourself, right? I book author of this book, I'm leaving 5 copies at Books and Office Supplies, consignment agreement. The books are to be retailed at $20. Usually book industry is like 20-25%. So the bookstore gets 25% of that $20 you're retailing for. The rest is the author. So have this information ready, and we're not going to turn you away. What we do encourage authors, and I think many of them fall short of this, they do not market their books. So they go around to the bookstores, they place it there, and then they come back, because I usually say, check us at least, if you come on a monthly rotation, you could just call us, right? Because sometimes, to be quite honest, books go slow. It's not a fast turnover. I often tell young people, I encourage them to be, entrepreneurs, and I would teach them and say, but don't sell books. And I mean, once you're an entrepreneur, you have to work hard. That's given. I'm not taking that away. But there are just some things might be an easier sell. But for us, it's not just about making that dollar, because trust me, Books and Office would have been closed up a long time ago. But it's really that passion to encourage reading and to let your people understand how important it is for civilization to read and what it can do for you. Because sometimes, and we have, as the owner managers, we meet at that level, and I'll be like, this is really tough. People see it and they love the store and it looks good, but they don't realize this stock they keep looking at as the same stock. They need to make room for more stock, purchase. But, it has to start somewhere, and you have to keep at it. So booksellers, you need to market your book. Some of them they have excellent books, and
nobody knows the book exists.
Right, and your marketing is not just getting it in a bookstore. Use social media. Get on shows like this. Get on shows like this.
Thank you for that plug, Natalie.
Do a little pop-up. It's month end. Get a little table and ask a supermarket owner, can I set up the table for 2 hours just to showcase my books? Right? Even if you're going to sell some, know where your books are. So when somebody asks you, where can I get this book? Or you can check Books and Office Supplies. You can just check this bookstore and that kind of thing. Right? Another thing is, you can't offer your book, for those of you who may have your books on Amazon, you can't have your customer in the store paying much more than what they can get it on Amazon. So if I see that, then I'll tell you, you're setting both us up. Especially me, because people will think, I am the one who is hiking up the price of your book, because it's quite easy for us as the end users to get all the blame, right? For example, for textbooks, like, a lot of people don't know that publishers set the price point of textbooks. So when you come and your book is $199, it's not because I set that price, but that is the price. So you find that it may vary $5, $3. We have to pay transport to get it across here. And even sometimes I have customers who would come and say, oh my gosh, I buy this book in Trinidad and I pay so much more for it. Because again, we have the idea everything is cheaper in Trinidad, but that's not always necessarily so. Right? So you have a lot of parents who go to buy their books in Trinidad, and then when it's a hard book, or they tack back to Tobago and they see the price, they'll be like, oh, I should have come here first.
Exactly.
But, that kind of thing.
I'm glad you hit on that, in terms of, you hit on so many good things, Natalie. The pricing, the marketing, that they may not even know what a consignment agreement or any kind of agreement is. Let's get into these things. So when we talk about consignment, right? We want to make sure our viewers know, right? This is not book school, right? But we just want to give you a just quickly tell us, what does that mean?
Right. So the consignment agreement is what is going to define our relationship between you, the author of the book, and me, the bookseller. Right. So in this document, of course, it lists the parties involved. So let's say, Jewel, we are talking about your book and you approach me. So it will be, and again, I tell people you don't have to go to a lawyer. You just type it up. I, Jewel Greene-George, author of Book X. Will leave 6 copies at your bookstore, Books and Office Supplies. This agreement states that for every book sold and that will be the retail, at $80, 25% goes to the bookstore, right? And I would usually prefer they work it out and not just leave it 25%. So what is the 25% of the 80? State that, and what is the amount you are getting? So it's quite clear. there's no miscommunication, and both parties sign to it. Some of them some authors may drill down a little more and say they may come monthly. That's no problem. It's your book. If it's sold, the money is there for you, right? You find that they may start off like that, but they realize the books are not going as fast. And be patient. So I have an author. I think her work is excellent. And she came last year to me and she said, I came to get my book. So the store supervisor came and said, one of the authors wants her books back. So I'm like, did we do something wrong? Did we get her upset? So when I came out to speak to her, and I said, why are you taking the books? Well, they're not selling. I said, no. I said, when last you did any PR work? Because some of these authors, the books are around for a while. So you have to kind of reinvent your marketing strategy, do little, blitz and buzz. And I said, because I thought we did something wrong, and I said, no. I said, you can leave the books. And she was like, but it's taking up your bookshelf space. I said, you're not paying a rent for it. If it has to stay there 2 years and I'm not complaining, why are you?
Yes.
If it's a problem, I will call you and say, hey, come for your books, right? But this is us giving back. We provide an avenue for all local authors to put their books on display, make it more accessible. Not everybody may want to go online and shop, and then some of the books are not even available online, so we have that, that partnership. We are willing to go that extra mile. You leave your book, but just do your groundwork. So, coming back to the consignment agreement, that dictates how we are to relate to each other. Because it's not like we're going to argue down the road, well, you drop 6 books and I say, no, 10, and that kind of thing. Because once I sign off to that, I am not responsible. If I can't find your books, I have to pay you, right? Because you may come, because what I tell the authors do, it's right there, you check. So it's not me saying I sold 2 books and I already sell 10 and not holding back your money. And I always advise them, people are different. So because of our relationship, and we try to represent and be honest, I will pay you for your books. And I had an instance where I could not account for about 2 books from an author. I don't think it was sold, but I just could not account for it in the store. It was my responsibility to pay the author for the books. Somebody else may argue down the road, they're not giving you that money, right? But we really try to work along with authors, but please market your books. Market your books.
Authors, you heard it from the books retailer. Please market your books.
And another thing, Jewel, understanding the market price and setting prices. Like I had a very long conversation with an author. She has a brilliant, I think it's a beautiful book, the colors, and it's geared towards children. But what you find is that most of the local books are 100 plus. Right? They know what they would have paid for their course material. They know what profits they set for themselves. But then a customer who is looking at their budget constraints may see that book for $100 and let's say $50. A child book might be thin. It looks good. I fall in love with it. But then I see another book from a mainstream publisher for $40 that may accomplish the same goal. Which one am I going to take? The one for the 40. And there's no way the local author can compete with that. This is coming from a mainstream publisher who's printing and distributing across the globe. But somehow something has to be done for them to, get investors where they can print more copies in one batch to bring down the cost, something, because it really puts the local authors at a disadvantage. And only people like me who may see value in supporting local will say, that's an investment. I mean, you understand? That's an investment. So I will buy that for my child, because when my child opens this book, they are seeing a representation of who we are as a Caribbean people, a representation of Tobago.
Natalie, you have to come back. You have to come back. We have so much to talk about in terms of the marketing and all of these different aspects of being an author. But we've covered consignment. We've covered authors. Do your marketing. This is not a storeroom, right? This is not a storehouse or a warehouse.
I have an author, just to not to make it too long, I have an author dropped off some books and she was in quite a rush and she dropped the books. I have the books on my shelf. I called her. I said, Miss X, I need a consignment. We need to agree what's going on here. You drop the books. You know how much books you drop off by me? We called to get the price. You just drop it and you're gone. I kept it in the box for a while. I called her again. Oh, she apologized. She's coming. Up to now, I haven't seen her, but I did get the price over the phone. Right. So I did my own little thing in front of me. I took a note, author MIA, and the books are there. And she's not even checking up on it.
I have to say also, Natalie, that you are going above and beyond. And I'll tell you why I say this. In certain territories, we won't name them, but Trinidad and Tobago, and I believe the Caribbean is the only territory where authors do not pay for the space in the bookstore. Even supermarkets overseas. The booksellers, the good sellers, if you're selling cereal, you're selling tomato, you're selling butter, you have to pay the supermarket owners to put your goods on their
you're paying
shelf,
a rent.
That's
you're
what
paying
they pay
a rent.
for. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we do not, as authors and publishers, pay that rent to the bookstores to put the... Listen, that's when you know you have skin in the game and you have to step it up, right? Because they're not letting you just come and put your stuff there and walk away. We don't even know if you're dead or alive.
Right,
we don't know what's going on. They're very strict about it. You pay rent for these shelves. And the shelves that are on eye level, the shelves that are closer to the door, you pay more for those. If you have those gondolas, those big things where you have, you know, you're going and you see, I think it's Rude Boy drink, right? I'm just giving you an example. We're not marketing for Rude Boy, right? We're not saying to buy people drinks. But you know, those big gondolas where they have the sign, right, and the name of the thing. You have to pay for that space.
We tell the authors, do your flyers, we'll post it. And I mean, we even started doing a book of the month only for the local authors. So for those who are viewing, you know, you can find books and office supplies. You spell out the A-N-D. We're on Facebook and also Instagram. Look for, let me get this right, because a lot of customers also mix it up. So instead of typing in books and office supplies, you type in the BAOS bookstore. So you think of the name Books and Office Supplies and you type in just the first letter of those. So it's BOAS for books. Sorry, BAOS. See, I mixed it up. Books and Office Supplies bookstore on Instagram. And we've started this this book of the month. So we feature an author. You see a nice little write-up. Yes, and these are some of them who were featured.
So we have some of the book covers as well.
Yes.
And we're going to go through it. So when we talk about some of these books, collections of poems, we have Kayla Loves Tobago. This is a local author, Awigal.
Yes. And I love this because it's about Tobago's history through the eyes of Kayla, and she's having a chat with her grandfather, who knows the history, of course. You know, very simple, interesting, and it's because, again, you don't see it in the mainstream textbooks. This is just for Tobago. Let our children know what has happened. How are we here?
And not only people in Tobago want to know, people overseas want to know what's
because
happening.
and we have and another, as you mentioned, that sometimes you have people visiting from the diaspora just coming home after 10, 15 years, and they come and they want to know what you have local. I have children and I want them to read about where I grew up.
We have this one collection of poems by Latoya Roberts.
And this one is special because the illustrations are by Tom Lee Roberts. And that's a renowned artist on the island. And in this book, the artwork is from him. So it's not just Latoya's creativity through her poems, and she's brilliant, but you also get artwork. You know?
I love it. We have another book here, and this one is called The Memoir of...
that's the memoirs of an island belle. And this is Dr. Modest grew up in Zion Hill Bell Garden, would have gone abroad, been at the top of her career as one of the prominent universities in the U.S. on the West Coast in California, Loma Linda University, which is known for pioneering so many, you know, in health studies, etc. And when you meet her, you have no idea she came from, as we like to say, these humble beginnings. Grew up in Belgarden, a Tobago girl, and you know she's gone to the world now. And her book it's as you mentioned the memoirs earlier. This is the first book I thought of, and it's such a relaxing read because it's her experience growing up in the island, her transition in
And
education.
these are so inspirational.
Definitely, and they make beautiful books. You have graduation coming up. Sometimes young people not sure where they want to go, or they figure, oh, this place is so small. Where will I make my mark? And when you read about these people who, you know, they did it and they did it all, and where are they from? Right here.
And look, we have this other one.
This is a new one that we recently stocked from Amelia Bruce. The colors in this book, it's amazing.
Yes,
and when you see the character, you know, she looks like so much fun.
Yes.
And what Amelia tried to do with this, instead of having your traditional books activity books where you teach children shapes, just you look at the drawing and that's it. She is bringing out this character is teaching you shapes through a story. So you're following a story as you encounter these shapes.
Yes.
You know, so you're taking your child on that literary journey as well, and not just, okay, look at this pointed, that's a circle, that's a square.
Yes, I really love this. It's so colorful. We had Amelia on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked to her about her book, and her colors are really attractive. And I said, Amelia, you know, I think this is a book that girls will gravitate to.
Yeah, it has that feel.
She said, yeah. She said, I have to make, you know, I have to do a different version that is going to attract the little boys as well. Because, you know, we love those pretty colors. And this one, oh. When I saw this book cover, I got immediately hungry. Well, I was hungry to start with, right?
Right. And this didn't help.
Not at all.
And Miss Williams Chance is known as the Blue Food Queen.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about Blue Food Festival in October, you're talking about the person when this competition started. This was the person who was winning year after year, and people kept asking. And you're talking about, you know, we have so many recipes and we like to do the foreign things.
So listen,
but
these are award-winning recipes in this book. This is not just Taste from Tobago, just dry soap. These are award-winning recipes. So if you want to do some local cooking, you have a little lime. Right? You have a little celebration, and you want to do just Tobago stuff, blue food stuff. Check out this book, Taste of Tobago.
And it's amazing how versatile, you know, when you go through this book, you realize, oh, I can do all of this with you know, with Blue Food, with provision. Like, wow. I
love dasheen.
Yes.
Especially dasheen wine.
Yeah, right. And she I think it's probably in there too. And you know, again, these books, we have to also kind of reorient our gift giving. So, like, I have 2 boys, and of course they are children. They want toys, birthday, Christmas, but they have to get a gift. They have to get a book. A book has to be in there, you know. And now that as they are older, I don't get the mommy a book, because you will get that, but you don't take them on. You know what you're doing.
Exactly.
You are investing in them. And now the toys will be there, and they sit with the book. Right, because they're really into the reading now. And again, it didn't happen overnight. It's because we created that environment for them. If I send them to bed, I will hear from the bedroom, Mommy. I'll be like, yes, Mommy, you didn't read for us. Because they get a story every night. You know, and sometimes as tired as I am, and you know, the urge is like, not tonight. I would have read somewhere that you don't use it as punishment. So, and I did that. So like, if I found they were giving me too much trouble to get into bed, I'd be like, right, no bedtime story. And then I read, no, you don't do that as punishment, because the reading is not for that. So I would have readjusted my behavior. And now, no matter what. So now if I'm really exhausted, I'll be like, okay, a short story tonight, or what I do now. But I got caught recently. I would paraphrase, because the younger one, it's the same book he loves you to read over and over. So I kind of know the story by heart. So I would be just going through the pages and I'm paraphrasing, and but he's learning to read. So he's like, Mommy, you skip out some of the words there. That is not what is on the page. And I'll be like, really? I say, well, you read it for me now. You know, so I let them read now pages for me, and I would continue after. So I got caught, you know, taking shortcuts.
Listen, you're going to be encouraging, you know, people usually say, oh, carnival babies and all that, but you're encouraging people to go and get children.
Yeah, no, it's, and I guess because the passion is within me. It's not just a business. But I love the reading, and even for the adults, you know, like when you come in books and office supplies. And again, that's why I say sometimes you wonder if we really, what are we doing about the reading? Because we have a big, is it 3 or 4, I think, levels shelf where we have novels. Again, I mentioned to you, like we used to bring so much of those bestsellers, and at one time we just pack them away. So we brought out some recently, but because they were in storage, the books are good, but you find the pages are quite brown.
Right.
And we have them at 40%.
Yes.
You know,
I love a good
so
sale.
of the marked price. So if the book tag is $75,
So wait, what are you
you
saying?
get 40% off of that.
You have
currently
a sale
Yes.
for books right in your store, right?
Yes.
I'll be there now.
So there's a particular area,
Yeah.
like it's about 3 shelves you go through. There are children books, adult books. Some of them are fiction. You have some self-development books in
Natalie,
between.
you had me at sale.
And but the thing is, we always tease
I
each
didn't want
other.
to know what
The
books are
employees and the team members at the
Yeah.
store would say, but this is like 40%. But the avid readers come. I have a young lady. She's a teenager, and she comes ever so often, and she's be like, so this is the price on the back. Cause let's say it's $75. I'll say, no, you're taking 40% off of that. She's look at her mommy, and she's like, we need to get some books.
And?
You know, and I'm like, it's just sometimes for me as an entrepreneur, you know, you have your low moments, and it's like, okay, what again can I do? Because you're trying, sometimes you put something on just special, you kind of count your loss, but you're trying to do something. So you say, okay, I'll just do it for like a week, you know? And I would always tell myself, oh, I think I better. And again, this is not to take away from the effort of the entrepreneurs who sell food and clothing.
Yes.
But, you know, people find the money to buy the clothes and the food, because they have to look.
Immediate gratification.
Right, you understand?
I fully
Not that you're not working hard, so don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But sometimes, you know, I get a bit despondent, and then I said,
Yes.
I'm in this for the long haul, because you have your customers who understand the importance of the reading, and you're there for them.
Listen, I love that you said that. We're going to the green room quickly, but I love that you said that, because there is a book influencer who is wearing her books.
Ah, nice.
So she's reading the books, and then she's turning them into accessories,
Right.
like a purse.
Yes.
Let me tell you,
I like
book
that. I
fashion
like
is coming in. I was like, what?
Yes.
She's buying these very intricate and ornate straps and beads and all, and just splicing them into the books.
Mm-hmm.
And she's wearing her books.
Nice. I love it. I love
Let me
it.
tell you. Just now we'll see it, you know,
Yeah.
like Elsa Wrench.
Yes, yes.
On the catwalk,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to be wearing books. Trust and believe. And that's going to send them to your bookstore. Listen, we've been having such a good time, but we can't forget the Green Room, where we share insights with authors. And today is no different. We are looking at what is a selling sheet. What is a book sheet? And a sell or sales sheet is a one-page document that provides details about the books to the retailers, right? A sale or sell sheet is a one-page document that provides information to the retailers. And what does it have on it? It's a book review. It shows the book cover, the book ID, aka the ISBN number, the category, the format, the trim, the size, all of these things. And these are things that some bookstores are asking for. They're asking authors to come in not just with their consignment agreement, but with a sell or sales sheet. So just putting it out there for authors, this is something that you can prepare ahead of time before you go down to the store, so that you can tell them, listen, this is what the book is about. This is who the illustrator is. This is a brief description. This is what the cover looks like. And therefore, you don't have to walk with your book everywhere you're going, because some people have some voluminous books, right? And it really helps the bookstore or the book retailer, the booksellers. You know, books are now at airports and coffee shops and all of that. It really gives them a quick overview of what you have and whether they want to take your book or not, right? And then when they say yes, of course, you whip out your consignment agreement.
You're ready.
So we love that. So Natalie, tell us, you know, from your point of view as a experienced bookseller and retailer, This sales or sell sheet, as we're talking about it here in the green room, is this something that would help you should an author decide, I'm going to come into the store prepared? I'm bringing my sell sheet, I'm bringing my consignment agreement, and I already know how much I'm selling the book for. I know what the discount will be if you do a promotion.
Right.
I'm coming in with some props. I'm
Yes.
coming in with, different. Tell us, how useful would a sell sheet be for you as a book retailer?
It will be most helpful because you're getting the book at a snapshot, and instead of me having to ask you all these questions, it's right there. So it shows that you are prepared, you understand what you're about as well, and everything is there. Because even sometimes I may tell an author, well, you have to leave a copy with me for me to browse it, and I may not really get time until the next 2 weeks, but you think I'm keeping you back, so that will really help.
Authors out there, you have heard this, and this episode has been so critical to some of the knowledge and information an author needs. So listen, if you're watching Book Club Corner today, make sure you send this episode to a friend, a family member who is an author, even a bookseller. People are looking to get into the book industry to sell books, and they may not know all of these things. They're hearing it from the horse's mouth, as they say, from an experienced book retailer. All the things that you will need to look for when you are inviting and entreating an author to come into your bookstore, and all the things authors have to have ready when they want you to take their books. We had such a great conversation.
Yes.
Natalie, thank you so much for
And
being
thank
here
you
with
for
us
inviting
today.
us to be here.
You have to come back.
We can arrange that.
We have so much to talk about.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be viewing from, Trinidad and Tobago, overseas, in the diaspora, you have so much to share in terms of your story. If you feel like this is something you want to get into, you want to write your own book, or you want to open a bookstore, you want to have that space where people can come locally, sit and chat and have some tea, have some wine, and read and drink and enjoy books. And also don't forget literacy. We have to make sure we have a very literate public if we're going to be pushing books and talking about reading. So thank you very much for being here with us today on Book Club Corner, and we welcome you to return to Book Club Corner next week, Wednesday, when we chat with another amazing author about their books and about the publishing industry. You enjoy your day, reach for the stars, and please, by all means, check Book and Office Supplies. They have a sale going on. Get your books, and we'll see you next week.
You're viewing Tobago